Many of today's legacy carriers are the result of mergers and rebrandings. For example, British Airways was founded in 1974 but traces its origin to 1919. Air Canada is no exception, as while the Canadian flag carrier under its current name came into existence in 1965, it traces its origin to 1937 with the founding of TransCanada Airlines. In recent times, Air Canada has claimed its early TransCanada Airlines heritage by painting one of its aircraft in the original TransCanada livery. We look at the story behind this livery and the airline's choice for today's video. TransCanada Airlines, often abbreviated to TCA, was the flag carrier of Canada until 1965, when it was renamed to Air Canada. TCA was founded in 1937 and commenced its first transcontinental flights in 1938. The airline was based in the city of Montreal, Quebec. In 1964, the Canadian government approved changing the name to Air Canada by an Act of Parliament. A motivation for the change was that Canada is a bilingual country with both English and French spoken. The name Air Canada was already in unofficial use in the French-speaking part of the country, and in the English-speaking part of Canada, people typically called it TCA. Air Canada was thus seen as a more bilingual name for the national airline. Understandably, many lamented the loss of the airline's original name. After all, TransCanada Airlines had been the first Canadian airline that truly spanned the country and was the nation's flag carrier. The name reflected how it had displaced trains to knit the massive country together. Fast forward a few decades and Air Canada would be made a private company through the deregulation of the Canadian airline market in the 1980s. Fast forward a few more decades and in 2021, Air Canada would unveil a new Airbus A220-300. Registered Charlie Golf November Bravo November, it was painted in the old TransCanada Airlines scheme. You can see that the aircraft is painted in military-like grey, with TransCanada Airlines prominently printed along the fuselage in bold red, while a striped red cheat line runs below along the fuselage. The Airbus A220-300 was painted by Airbus at its facility near Montreal Mirabel International Airport. This makes sense, as it's where the main assembly facility for the A220s is located. However, the Montreal area is also where TransCanada Airlines was based and is where Air Canada is now based. At the time of video production, in May 2025, the Airbus A220 is currently parked and has been on the ground for quite some time now. The aircraft first flew in March 2021 and entered service in April 2021. After a few years of service, it was stored at Winnipeg International Airport in January 2024 and has been at the facility ever since. The Airbus A220-300 wasn't the first aircraft Air Canada painted with the retro colours. Indeed, the aircraft took over from an Airbus A319, registered Charlie Foxtrot Zulu Uniform Hotel, that was retired in 2021. Which had been painted in TransCanada Airlines retro livery in 1997 to celebrate the airline's 60th anniversary. By the time it was retired, the livery was beginning to look faded. That Airbus A319 featured the older, lighter maple leaf design and a symbol reminiscent of a white BOAC Speedbird. When the aircraft was repainted, the maple leaf became a solid red and the Speedbird became yellow. The aircraft was delivered to Air Canada by Airbus with the retro livery, and it was removed from Air Canada service and stored in Kansas City in the United States in January 2021. In March 2021, the aircraft was ferried to Greenwood in Mississippi and permanently retired. According to Planespotters.net, the aircraft was, quote, dismantled and transported to Shanxi, China for preservation in June 2022. Getting back to airline history, TransCanada Airlines was created by a special Act of Parliament as a wholly owned subsidiary of the Canadian National Railway Company, or CNR. The intention was for the railroad company to be able to provide air transportation, freight and mail service to all regions of Canada. At the time, CNR was the largest company in Canada and proved effective for the Canadian government to create a national airline as a counter to the US's growing passenger aviation sector. Passenger service between Vancouver and Montreal began on April 1, 1939. During the Second World War, the airline operated scheduled flights for the Canadian Government Transatlantic Air Service, or CGTAS, to support Canada's war contribution. In 1942, Canadian National Railway's arch-rival Canadian Pacific Railway created the Canadian Pacific Airlines, which flew until 1987, when it was absorbed by Canadian Airlines International, which was in turn absorbed by Air Canada in 2000. The Airbus A220 is one of the most Canadian commercial passenger jets in service today, and it was developed by Canada's Bombardier as the C-Series. However, the financial strain of the project compelled Bombardier to sell the project to Airbus, which renamed it the A220 in 2018. The A220 comes in two variants, the A220-100, formerly CS-100, and the A220-300, formerly CS-300. The A220-300/CS-300 first flew in February 2015 and received its type certificate in 2016. Bombardier also ended production of the CRJ series regional jet aircraft and sold off the Q series to de Havilland Canada, where it was renamed the DHC-8 or Dash 8 and remains in production. Bombardier exited the commercial passenger aircraft industry and now focuses on building business jets. The aircraft currently in Bombardier production are the Challenger 300, Challenger 600, Global Express and Global 7500, all business jets. While it may be a bitter pill for Canadians that the homegrown Bombardier C-Series had to be sold to a European giant, there is some comfort in that it is the only Airbus program managed outside of Europe. Airbus has two assembly facilities for the Airbus A220, one in Mirabel, Quebec, and the other in Alabama in the United States. Mirabel is the primary facility for the program and where Air Canada's retro A220 was built, so Air Canada can still boast that it was designed and built in Canada. While the retro TransCanada Airlines liveried Airbus A220 has been absent from the skies for more than a year, it is Air Canada's way of celebrating its almost 90-year-old history. TransCanada Airlines has been renamed in 1965 to be more bilingual friendly, but the name lives on for many Canadians. For some, TCA represents the development of Canada's aviation industry, together with Canada's substantial aviation sector. Air Canada chose to celebrate its 60th anniversary with an Airbus A319 sporting TransCanada Airlines livery. When that aircraft retired in 2021, Air Canada chose to replace it with an A220 that was designed and built in Canada. It is common for airlines to go retro to celebrate their heritage. For example, British Airways unveiled a Boeing 747 in its old BOAC livery to celebrate its centenary in 2019, with the UK flag carrier also devising two more retro liveries for the 747 and one for the A319. What do you think of Air Canada's rich history and the airline's decision to paint an A220 with a retro livery? Let us know by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.